Let's talk about ghosts for a little bit more here for just a moment. There's a lot of myths about ghosts. One, all if he was a bad person, he should rot in hell. Okay, well, we know that ghost energy impacts us. Everybody has ghost stories, right? And what about somebody like a Jeffrey Epstein? Do we really want him to be running around free in another dimension, or do we want the higher realms to have access to his soul? Think about that.
Welcome to the Spiritual Quest podcast, a transformative journey where we step into a world of wonder and exploration, seeking answers to profound questions. Why am I here? What is my mission in life? And how can I make a positive impact in this world? Join me and my inspiring guests on a spiritual quest to fully embrace your uniqueness and speak your truth with grace and gratitude. I am your host, Vibeke Garnos, always guided by spirit. Welcome to another episode on the Spiritual Quest podcast. This episode is actually a masterclass all about soul health and soul sovereignty with the extraordinary psychic medium and spiritual expert, Laura Tyne. This conversation is all about the unseen forces that affects our everyday life and learning now through these transitional times to navigate the winds of higher and lower frequencies is essential to practice soul protection or soul sovereignty. And so this masterclass will not only give you the understanding of what unseen forces is out there, but also how to protect your own soul and your families. I recommend you get a notebook, open your heart and mind, and dive into this wonderful masterclass with the extraordinary Laura Tyne. And if you do enjoy this masterclass, then I'm inviting you into the Spiritual Quest treasure chest for free, where you will find other masterclasses, including this one, that will give you tools and understanding to help you ascend into higher frequencies. So, with no further ado, let's allow Laura Tyne to take over and host this masterclass. I hope you enjoy it. Today's masterclass is super important when it comes to protecting your soul sovereignty and moving through life protected from lower dimensional entities. Our masterclass teacher knows firsthand how extremely vulnerable we are when it comes to the dark forces. And today, she is sharing her knowledge, wisdom, and insight on the topic of your soul health and the spiritual war. Laura Tyne is a remote viewer and speaker with expertise in crossing over, parasitic implant removal, and quantum healing hypnosis, amongst many other spiritual arts. She guides us to unlock our true potential through soul sovereignty and free will, and helping discover solutions for etheric protection against spiritual threats while we keep raising our frequencies. Let me welcome our masterclass teacher, psychic medium, Laura Tyne. Hello, Laura.
Hello, thank you for the nice introduction. Thank you, and I'm very excited to be here today.
Oh, I'm so excited for your class. I've been thinking about it all day. And before we get started, and I give the class to you, I would like for you to just answer me one question. Why do you think the topic of soul health and the spiritual war is so important?
Because the spiritual war we are seeing played over and over and over throughout the history of this planet. And as we're doing this, we have to look at the concept of our soul. What is our soul? And what I've learned throughout the years is the stronger our soul is, the harder it is for these dark forces to take over. This is pinnacle to humanity. And so it really is all about soul health.
Ooh, I'm going to give you the class because I'm excited for you to get going. And I want to make sure that we have all the time you need to get to say whatever your soul and heart desires.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to start off with the fact that we talk about our health all the time. In fact, if I have any kickboxing friends here today, they're going to say, oh, wow, this is what she looks like cleaned up and not hot and sweaty. And, anyways, we talk about our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health. We talk about our financial health. But when was the last time we had a conversation about our soul's health? And that leads the question, what is the soul? Simply put, our soul is the energy that animates this physical body. These bodies are rental units, really, meaning that when we die, we leave this physical body. The energy that animated the body, that soul energy, has to go somewhere. The soul energy is what animates our physical body. Everybody here has a soul. That is given. However, the health and well-being of our soul is not always addressed. We are our soul is us, period. At the end of the day, we don't take anything else with us. When we leave these physical bodies, the only aspect we take back with us is our soul. Our souls are multidimensional, meaning the better we take care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, even financially, the healthier our soul is. When we compromise ourselves, we're actually degrading our soul. And we're going to talk about these elements in a little bit. But this is what our soul is, our soul health is about. And again, when we die, these bodies are just rental units. The better we take care of them, the better we get our deposit back. And our souls are derived from God source energy. This is key. Our souls, we are all beings of God, aspects of God. And this is where the dark side comes to play, as you'll come to find out as we go through this class. The next part is that our souls are eternal. Christ talked about life everlasting, not death everlasting. What does life everlasting mean? It means our soul life. Our soul goes through many incarnations on this planet, and even we have activities in our lifetime between lifetimes, meaning that when we die, we go back, ideally, we go back home to the heavens, to the higher realms, whatever your word is for that. And then we reincarnate back here. The first thing I want to talk about are the internal factors that affect our souls. Our childhood belief structures and family patterns are critical. What family patterns were you born into that need improving? Everybody has them. When we can learn how to step outside of that family matrix and to improve ourselves, to improve those family patterns. If you grew up in a family where maybe there was rape or incest or physical abuse or mental abuse, and as an adult, you realize this is what not to do, and you change your family patterns, you change your karmic path for the better. So look at your life, at these family belief structures, these childhood patterns, and see what you can improve upon. The other factors are guilt, blame, and shame. Many religions discuss the concept of sin. Sin perpetuates guilt, blame, and shame. Who gave us this concept of sin? Was it really God, or was it maybe the dark forces? Guilt, shame, and blame lower our vibrations. Guilt, shame, and blame are detrimental to our soul's health. What if we said instead, I had an experience, I did this, I would have done something differently. As you reflect upon it, I would have done something differently. I would have done A instead of B, but now you know. This is karma giving you a second chance. I've had this experience. I wouldn't have done this, but now I know. So if you replace the word sin with experience, it elevates the soul health. Guilt, shame, and blame tear us down. I had an experience. This is what I'm going to do. Maybe you can atone for an experience. Maybe you had a bad day at work and you were lashing out at your family, or maybe your boss or somebody like that, or maybe you literally kicked the puppy out of frustration and anger. Well, figure out what you did, learn how to do it differently and better next time. This gives you wisdom and insight into your soul health and well-being. And remember, guys, we talk about spiritual ascension all the time. This is a form of spiritual ascension when we can learn how to do things differently, how to use wisdom, how to take a moment to pause, to be mindful. And spiritual ascension is never a straight shot up. Spiritual ascension ebbs and flows, comes and goes, and it's based on our experiences. This is really important to understand. And spiritual ascension, by the way, guys, is not a contest. If you think spiritual ascension is a contest, you're going to lose. We're all on our own karmic paths. We're all here for the lessons and experiences our souls need as we move forward in these incarnations. And this lifetime is not an easy lifetime to be here on this planet, and I think we can all agree on that. The first thing I want to address about soul health is the concept of frequency. Frequency or vibration, these are phrases that are just thrown around all the time, where most of us are pretty familiar with it. The higher we can raise our frequency, the more ascended we are, that kind of stuff. But I want to start out with this fact. We are not created equal. There is no such thing as being created equal. If we were created equal, we would all be robots. Instead, we are created in karma. We are created for the experiences our soul needs on its karmic path. In this lifetime, my higher self chose to come in as a white person born in the Midwest in the United States. I know I have had past lifetimes where my skin color was different. My gender was different. So these are the experiences we need. And so as we're looking throughout the planet right now, and especially in the United States, everything we're hearing about is about equality, being equal. That is something that is designed to destroy our soul's health. The concept of being equal means we're all the same. We're not the same. We can learn from each other. We can grow with each other. But the minute you're not like me and I decide that you're a bad person because we disagree, you're actually harming your soul's growth and health. Here's a common phrase I hear all the time. Just raise your frequency, they say. What the heck does that mean, right? Well, our frequency is our baseline. For example, have you ever felt like you've been so busy and you got to relax, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting a cold, but you don't? That's because your frequency shielded from that cold from you. Or maybe you did get the cold and your frequency just had a hole in it. So as we're learning about raising frequency, know that what we want to do is we want to create a high baseline so that when we fall, let's say we have a death, a divorce, a job loss, maybe we lost our home. When we fall, the fall isn't as far. It's not as hard. This is what the concept of frequency is all about. And there's some things that we can do to raise our frequency, and these are intentional things. One is you can play high frequency music, and you can play it on your computer and let it go on an 8-hour track throughout your home. I am very hesitant to use those high frequency YouTube tracks, because anybody can create something and say anything. How do you know it's really high frequency, right? What I would recommend is playing either Mozart or Bach or something that's tried and true that stands the test of time. You can get these free on YouTube, and you can play an 8-hour track, a 10-hour track. Play it low on your computer or your phone or your iPad, and just let the energy of the music embed and imbue your home. It's a very subtle practice to clean and clear the home, to raise the frequency of the home and its inhabitants. And I say inhabitants because it also applies to your pets. Essential oils are another one that you can use. Essential oils are the life force energy of a plant. The life force energy of a plant. We have with us a lot of medicines, etc., which there's beneficial stuff too. But if we can go back to plant medicines, back to nature, it really helps to heal the soul. Removing and reducing clutter in your home. Clutter creates anxiety. Clutter creates tension. Whenever there's tension in your life, karma's out of balance. So remove whatever is cluttering the home. Remove whatever it is. If you want to look at when you're looking around your home, does it bring you joy? Ask yourself that. As I'm in my living room, does this vase bring me joy? Does this nightstand bring me joy? Whatever it is, does it bring you joy? If the answer is no, get rid of it. It's no big deal. It's just stuff. Now for the fun part. We've talked a little bit about the soul, but what I really want to address today are those unseen energies and entities that impact us all the time. Unseen energies and entities affect us whether we're aware of it or not. Think about this. A couple hundred years ago, before the invention of the microscope, people didn't think that washing your hands could save lives, right? Well, once the microscope was invented and you could see the viruses and bacteria through this new lens, they're like, aha, well, this is no different. Remember, everything is energy. Energy has no boundaries. Energy can seep through the walls. Have you ever been in a meeting, or maybe it was a family reunion, and you walk in the door not expecting anything, but the energy was so thick you could cut the tension with a knife? What is that? That is energy. Have you all of a sudden became irrationally angry and you didn't know why? That is energy. All right, we need to understand how the unseen world affects us all. And this requires a basic understanding of the dimensions and the beings that reside in these dimensions. First of all, and by the way, I call this who's who in the spiritual zoo. Every dimension has a political hierarchy. I know you think once you die, you're going to be out of politics. Nope, not so much. Politics are in all dimensions. All right. First of all, we live in the third dimension. This dimension, we need the time, the space, and the gravity to have these mortal experiences. We need the time to have it. We need the space, and we need the gravity to anchor us here. The third dimension is where we have these physical bodies. This is the dimension where we touch, see, taste, hear, smell. That's our physical third dimensional life. We are multidimensional beings, so we're going to remember this. The fourth dimension is an interesting thing. The fourth dimension is not what it's supposed to be. The fourth dimension, the original purpose of the fourth dimension, and by the way, this is where the land where the ghosts live and the dark entities live. If you look back at the history of the planet, regardless of culture, regardless of geography, every language, every culture has words for ghosts, angels, and demons. Why is that if they don't exist? A ghost is a being who left the body. Again, when I die and I leave this body, the energy that animates my soul has to go somewhere. A ghost is a soul that got literally stuck between heaven and earth. It is in the hells. It's in the fourth dimension. Every holy text has something like the 23rd Psalm. Lo, behold, I shall walk through the valley of shadow of death. I shall fear no evil. What is that about, right? The original purpose of this fourth dimension was to become a step-up transformer. When we leave the body, we need to raise our frequency so we can go back home to the heavens, to the higher realms. And along the way, something happened. The Luciferic forces, those beings who left the light of God, were like, oh, snap. We left the light of God. Now we don't have an energy source anymore. What are we going to do? and they're looking at us. Hey, these humans, and by the way, we're not the only planet. These humans are light beings of God. We can utilize their energy. This is scary, but once we know, we know. We can utilize their energy. We're going to use them as a step down transformer. We're going to come down, take their energetic signatures, and feed ourselves. And the Luciferic forces are many different types of beings. And let's talk about ghosts for a little bit more here for just a moment. There's a lot of myths about ghosts. One, if he was a bad person, he should rot in hell. Okay, well, we know that ghost energy impacts us. Everybody has ghost stories, right? And what about somebody like a Jeffrey Epstein? Do we really want him to be running around free in another dimension? Or do we want the higher realms to have access to his soul? Think about that. It's not like he is resting on the Isle of Paradise, but when the higher realms have access to that Jeffrey Epstein soul energy, he cannot wreak havoc on the living, and he can't wreak havoc on the dead that he has killed. So that's a pre-programmed belief that bad people should rot in hell. Another pre-programmed belief is, oh, he left before his time. I remember I worked with a mom of 3 small children whose husband literally died of a heart attack about 10 years ago, and he was living in the house as a ghost. And everybody kept saying, oh, isn't that sweet? He's here because he's not done raising his family. Well, newsflash, when we leave these bodies, our karmic time here is done. He is actually negatively impacting his family, even though it's out of a love. He's negatively impacting his family because they can't grow for whatever reason, and we're not privy to the knowledge. His time there was done so the family could have the experience of living their life without him. Sounds cruel, but we don't know the purpose. So those are a couple of pre-programmed beliefs about ghosts, that it's okay for them not to cross over. But remember, the dark side will gain access to that ghost energy. And you want your loved ones to cross over to go home to the heavens. You really do, no matter how strong your attachment is to them. Another being that resides in the 4th dimension is somebody called the Hat Man. The Hat Man usually wears like a fedora type of thing, or maybe almost like a top hat, but it's a black hat with the rim around it. The Hat Man is a watcher being. And what he does is he's reporting activity to his bosses. Again, everything is a political hierarchy. This Hat Man being doesn't necessarily communicate with us, although he may communicate, but stay away. You're going to bring in your angelic teams to remove him if that is an experience you're having, and I'll explain that later on in this class. The Hat Man is a watcher being, and his job is to report to his bosses about what's going on. Usually he's standing in the corner of a room. He doesn't really move too much. The other aspect that we have to talk about are lower realm entities. These are like the pawns on a chessboard. You may see like a wispy thing out of the corner of your eye. You may feel something like around your ankles or feet or whatever. These are beings that are designed to create havoc. That's their job. They're designed to upset us, because as they upset us, they can extract our energy because our soul health becomes weakened a bit. There's going to be some strategies that I'll talk about at the end, how to remove these beings from your spaces. Another one are shapeshifters. All too often, people just trust that their spirit guide, their team, or whatever it is you want to call it, are who they say they are. Well, there's a lot of shapeshifters. Just like in our physical 3D mortal world, a shapeshifter could be a pedophile priest. Everybody loves this priest, but turns out he's a pedophile. That's a shapeshifter. Shapeshifters are these beings, they can read our minds, and they know our heart's desires. And I'll share this little story with you. I had a client whose daughter was a mom, daughter, granddaughter situation. They lived in the same house. Grandma died. The granddaughter was extremely attached to grandma. And the mom called me to say, I think that grandma is still in the house. Can you help me cross her over? And I'm like, absolutely. We crossed over grandma. About a week later, this person calls me back and says, my daughter is saying that she keeps talking to grandma. What's that about? Because here's the rule. Once a soul crosses over to the higher realms, they can't come back as a ghost and eat dinner with us or ride in a car with us. It's a violation of spiritual law. They can work with us in our sleep state and our dreams. That's fine. So I go over there and to the house and I said, oh, wow, I'm so impressed. Tell me about this. And she says, well, my friend and I, we made our own Ouija board. Okay, first, stay away from those. Even if you make them yourself, not cool. They open up portals. We made our Ouija board and we started asking my grandma questions. And then she showed up and I said, wow. And in their living room, I created this containment field. Again, I can remote view. And I said, I want your grandma to stand right here. Can you bring her in and have her stand right here? And they did. Both mom and granddaughter are very psychic. And I said, okay. I asked grandma a few questions. And I told the mom and the granddaughter, look, I'm going to do something and tell me what you see happens. I visualized myself pouring salt down on grandma, and grandma shapeshifted instantaneously into a reptilian. That is one example of a shapeshifter. Don't assume your team is who they say they are. The dark side is banking on us just to blindly trust. Since when do you blindly trust anything? But for some reason, we're not allowed to question spiritual aspects. Thought forms are another aspect that we need to talk about. Thoughts are things. Teenagers are really good at creating thought form energy. Thoughts are things and they carry energies. Our planet is being riddled with fear-based thoughts. Everywhere people are afraid, they're scared, it's paralyzing. The thing about fear, and I came to learn this in my darkest days when I had these dark beings were after my daughters and my soul. This was years ago. It's a whole nother story. What's happening is that fear in small doses can keep us safe. Oh, don't turn left. Or, oh, this neighborhood doesn't feel good. Fear in large doses can become paralyzing. You have to push past the paralyzing fear. We need to remove the fears from this planet. The dark side uses this as their energy source. That's a big deal. Fallen angels are another one of these fourth dimensional beings. When the Luciferic forces fell from the light of God, most of the time we think of them as fallen angels, but there's many other species involved also. These are the beings that followed Lucifer, and these fallen angels are needing that energy source because they left the angelic realms. They need our energy to survive. The other thing we're hearing a lot about, and I deal with these guys almost on a daily basis, are reptilians. These are the beings, yes, there's different species within the reptilians. There's some big ones and small ones and fat ones and short ones and hairy ones and scary ones, whatever. There's many different species, but the reptilians are the ones that started World War II. These guys created World War II to create a huge amount of fear and terror so they could feast off of that energy. These are also the ones that brought communism to our planet. So they're injecting themselves through the minds of humans all the time. Another species are the Greys. I deal with these guys on a daily basis too. The Greys are the ones who are experimenting on humans. We hear about alien abductions and things like that. Chances are that's a Grey thing. They also created our monetary system, the capitalistic system. They created the stock. So they use a system of credits and debits. Again, they have imparted this knowledge on humanity to benefit themselves. So once you know, you know. Once you know, you can take your power back. That's why I'm bringing these things up. There's many other ET extraterrestrial species out there. If we're really to think that the only ones out here are humans, that's very egocentric of us. So there's many species out there, but mostly the Greys and the reptilians and even some of the insectoids impact us quite often. The fifth dimension and above, we've talked about the third, where the humans live, the physicality of our world. The fourth dimension is the lower realm, which was designed to be a step up transformer for us. So we go from point A to point B to point C when we die and leave these bodies. But the dark forces took this over. We need to fix this. The best thing we can do to fix this is to cross over ghostly souls. If you are work in a hospital, if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, and most of my clients honestly are medical professionals, you have the tools to cross over the dead. There's a hospital that I worked with while under construction, asked me for 500 crossing over prayers so they could put them inside the walls of the hospital rooms. What that does is they act like light portals to keep the hospital clean and clear. And this hospital to this day has an amazing track record. So the biggest part of the fifth dimension and above are the angelic realms. The angels are our most underutilized resource. Again, angels are our most underutilized resource. If you want to grow your spiritual team, start with the angels. We have been programmed to believe that my problems aren't worthy of an angel's help. We have been programmed to believe that I need to save all my little chits, my brownie points, so I can ask the angels for help. We've been programmed to believe so many things about not asking for their help. Angels are here to serve humans. They are a God source energy designed to assist us. But here's the catch. They cannot violate spiritual law. They can only help when we ask them to help. Again, they can only help when we ask them to help. Use your angels often. Use them for anything you can think of. The more you practice using their help, the stronger your soul becomes, the stronger your spiritual team becomes. Use them for everything. I use them if I'm going to the grocery store. I'm like, hey, angels, I want a good parking spot today. Ask and ye shall receive. I use them for my teenagers. Well, when my teenagers were teenagers, all the time. Parents can use them to keep their kids safe at school. You're going to simply, I am requesting a team of angels to be with my child from the moment they leave the house to the moment they come back, to help them choose wisely, to help them use their words wisely, and help them make good decisions. You can do that for your kids that you are in charge of, if they're under 18 or you're paying their way or whatever. You can't do this to your 42-year-old son. You have to ask him permission. You can ask angels to be with you all the time. You can ask angels if you are going into a tenuous meeting, fill the room with angels. You know you're going into a meeting. You know it's going to be confrontational. Fill the room with angels. I am requesting 1,000 angels to fill this room that I will be in from this point until this point. I am requesting they calm the energy. Everybody has access to angels. Our angelic teams will only grow if we use them. The angels really are here to help us. Again, we're going to talk about vetting them as you're calling them, and you can vet them. I had a number of years ago, one of my daughters got her driver's license late in life because she had a year-long concussion kind of thing. She gets her license and she's so excited that she's driving to the beach to go surfing where mom doesn't have to take her, and she's super excited. The night before, I get this awful feeling. She got her license on a Thursday. Saturday, she's going to the beach to go surfing. I said, no, you can't go. There's going to be a car accident. And it's not going to be your fault, but you can't go now. And you would have thought World War III erupted in my house. And I thought, okay, I have two things. I can have my family hate me forever, or I can bring in the angels. I literally requested the angels to fill my daughter's car, to surround the car from the moment she leaves the driveway to the moment she gets back. And in this process, she leaves at about 6 a.m. because that's when the surf is. My husband and I get this phone call, and it's only maybe an exit or two on the freeway to get to the beach from our house. It wasn't that far. We get this call. She goes, Mom, I was in an accident. This car hit me. I'm okay, blah, blah, blah. So my husband and I, of course, get dressed. We race out of the house. We get there 10 minutes later. The CHP, California Highway Patrol officer, was there. And he's saying that she got hit by a drunk driver. Again, it wasn't her fault. And he says, I don't know how her car didn't spin out or flip based on the point of impact. That was the angels. And then afterwards, I was talking to my daughter. I'm like, so tell me what happened. How are you feeling? She goes, Mom, it was the weirdest thing. I thought my car just sort of floated off to the side of the road. I wasn't driving my car. That's the power of the angels. Use them. They are there for you. And don't hesitate. If you want a good sale on pants at the mall, ask them to find you a good sale of pants in the mall. It doesn't matter. The more you use them, by the way, and angels earn karma too. So the more you use the angels, the better they rank in their karmic path as well. They are the most underserved grouping that we have. We don't use them enough. Other dimension people, who's who in the spiritual zoo, these other dimensional players in the fifth dimension, the heavens, the higher realms, are the Pleiadians. These are the souls that have originated from the higher realms that have incarnated here to help mankind. Right now, there's a lot of these starseed people out there. There's many other ET types of species that are benevolent. They're not all nefarious and negative or harmful. These guys are working really hard to save the planet and to elevate humanity. The more we connect with them directly, the more we can assist in that endeavor. And here's the big thing for today, guys. Soul health. We talked about what our soul is. We've talked about these other beings, but now I want to talk about spiritual discernment. We need to discern who or what we're communicating with, whether we're in prayer or meditation, or we are so psychic we see stuff around us. We need to discern who or what they are. We need to vet and test our guides. Whenever we call on the angels or other guides, we need to vet them. And we need to do it every single time. Don't think that you're going to be hurting their feelings. They're going to appreciate this. Vetting means that we're making a careful and critical examination of something. We're investigating something thoroughly. Our minds are our most powerful asset. Again, our minds are our most powerful asset. And if these dark forces can dull and dumb us down, they win. We need to work on healthy foods, a healthy lifestyle. This helps us quite a bit. So some of the visualization techniques that we can use is, one of them is salt. We can clear things with salt. Salt cleanses in all dimensions. We used to use salt back in the olden days before refrigeration to pack our meat, to preserve the meat. We've used salt to clean wounds. Salt cleanses in all dimensions. And what you can do is just simply, you don't even have to see your angels. I want you to just get used to practicing being around them. Sometimes you can feel them. Sometimes you can see or sense them. It's all the same. Use all of your skills, all of those tools that we have. You're going to visualize yourself. I'm requesting a team of angels to go to this family reunion with me. All right. You're at the family reunion. The teams of angels are there. I have them stand in military formation in rank and file because I can sense and see them better that way versus if they're just all globbed in there. And then you're going to close your eyes, or you can even do it with your eyes open because you don't want to look weird. Visualize yourself pouring a huge torrential rain of salt on them. The lower realmed entities cannot handle the frequency of salt. If you have a child who has night terrors, or if you have sleep paralysis, that's when you're sleeping, you can't even use your voice, you can't move. It's very serious. It's a dark entity. What you can do is you can call out, in the name of Jesus, in the name of God. I've had people call out my name to come and help them in their mind's eye. But what you can also do is visualize, and I will tell this to kids a lot because I think it's funny, but it works. You want to take the fear factor away, especially from the kids who are dealing with sleep paralysis and stuff. Have them visualize themselves holding an Uzi gun full of salt and just spraying them with salt. And I say, and then they're going to run away screaming like little girls. Okay. So that will help clear them. Visualize yourself pouring down a rain of salt. You can also visualize a pure violet flame coming up through your body, up through your home. The violet flame concept transmutes energy, removes the detrimental energies, it negates it. And here's a great little tip that I was given a number of years ago from a dear friend. He was always in these awful meetings with the higher ups and stuff in his organizations. And what he had told me was, when I go into a room, I visualize pink rose petals falling through the air. And this works so amazingly well. You're going to visualize pink rose petals perpetually falling through the air. The rose petal cuts the air, the energy of the air, and the color of pink is very soft and it mitigates that energies. So know that there's so many tools that we can use in our mind, our mind's eye, and then there's also some physical tools that we can use. One of the spiritual tools that we can use are pendulums. Pendulums help connect us to our higher self. And with the pendulum, I prefer metal ones over crystal ones. Crystals embed energy. They pick up energy, so you're not getting a true reading. With a metal pendulum, they're not going to pick up the energies as much, but you still do want to clear them. The other thing you want to do with a pendulum is you want to make a statement. Don't ask a question. Why? Because if you're using a pendulum and you're asking a question, the energy of wishing and hoping gets manipulated. Instead of saying, does my boyfriend love me? Say, my boyfriend loves me, and be detached, be removed from it. The other thing that we can use are resins. So a lot of times people like to burn sage. Sage may have worked, but the reality is we are in new times. These times have never existed before. They're very difficult. We need to up our spiritual toolboxes. Sage is, in my mind's eye, it's a black magician's tool or a dark entity's tool to get us to rest on our laurels, to give us, so they can have access to us. All of a sudden, one day, one of our daughters woke up extremely psychic. And I'm a middle school teacher. I taught, math and Spanish and whatever. And my husband's a business guy. And our kid wakes up really psychic and see and talk to all these beings and entities. And oh my goodness, our life mirrored a Hollywood horror flick. And the credits didn't roll for 10 years. It was awful. And I had one really sweet friend who said, you know what? Have you burned any sage to clear the house? Because literally we had the Hat Man, we had Shadow Man, we had the Slender Man, we had ghosts, we had all kinds of things in our house all the time. If the fire department would have come into our house and they would have been physical beings, we would have been in violation of a fire code. It was that bad. But I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't like I was dabbling. I've still, to this day, I've never even touched a tarot card. Okay, I don't dabble. But something was happening. And my friend says, go get some sage. And I'm like, okay, where do you buy sage? That's how new I was at this. Oh, go to the store and you can buy some sage. And, I go to the store and I buy this cute little bundle of sage and it's got some little dried wildflowers on it. It's really pretty. And I burn it at the house, through the house. And she's like, open up a window. I'm like, okay, open up a window. Nothing happened. So I tell her, it's like, okay, nothing happened. And she's like, well, did you use white sage? I'm like, there's a difference. She's like, oh, honey. Oh, yes, there's a difference. So she says, I'm going to come by with some white sage. So she comes by with 12 bundles of white sage, and they're very powerful. And I thought, okay, well, I will burn them the next morning. And at this point, if I got 2 hours of sleep at night, that was a big deal. Because if I slept, they would hurt my daughter. One night, they literally, and I've mentioned this on the Spiritual Quest show before, my daughter comes racing down the hallway and says, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, the shadow men are talking, and they said they're going to steal my soul to break you." She was 6. What does that mean? That is not how a 6-year-old talks. And then she started saying, "What's a soul, Mommy? Why do they want my soul?" That was my defining moment. That moment changed me. I was not going to let them win. I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep for 10 years. Wreaked havoc on my health, but I didn't know how to protect my family, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing today. So back to the sage. Burn 12. She brings me 12 bundles, and I take the girls to school. My husband's off to work. We've got a pet dog, 2 cats, and a pet rabbit, and they all use the doggy door in and out, in and out. And I come back to the house, and I'm so exhausted. I mean, I can barely see straight. I probably shouldn't be driving at this point. That's my level of exhaustion. And I thought, you know what? If 1 bundle of sage is good, 12 is going to be really good. So I opened up a window. I put the sage into a silver mixing bowl, and I light it on fire. And do you know what happens to silver mixing bowls when they're on fire? They get hot fast. And I ended up dropping the bowl. Thank goodness it was on the dining room table. And this huge torch of flame goes whoosh through the house, or excuse me, through up to the ceiling. It scorched the ceiling. I grab the hot pads, I take it outside, and literally the house is full of so much smoke. I open up the doors and windows, and I'm like, please, God, don't let the neighbors call the fire department. And the animals ran outside that little doggy door. It didn't change anything for me. Sage is it's just crispy, dried leaves at the end of a shrub. They don't hold power to remove these entities and beings. Sage is cleansing. Sage is antimicrobial. Sage is good for ceremonies. Sage is good for eating, but it doesn't have the spiritual horsepower to do what needs to be done. And again, this is a tool that the dark side gave to us to get us to think that we are doing what we need to do. What you can use instead are pure resins, not incense sticks. Incense sticks have chemical binders on it that when you burn, you're inhaling. Pure resins from high frequency trees such as the frankincense tree, myrrh trees, dragon's blood, these, even Palo Santo, that's a wood, not a resin. These are much higher frequency. When the Christ child was gifted gifts from the Magi, he was gifted frankincense, gold, and myrrh. He was gifted those items because they're high frequency. Nobody ever asked, why was he gifted tree sap? Gold makes sense because it has a monetary value, but there's actually more value to gold because it's high frequency. So remember that if you're going to be working on elevating your frequency or clearing yourself, use a pure resin. You can burn it, you can diffuse it in a diffuser, you can use an essential oil of frankincense or something along those lines. That works too. And again, high frequency music can help because it starts to push out and embed throughout the items in your home. If you have an area in your home where you feel like there's activity, use a green light at night. A green light at night creates a barrier. It's a frequency issue. It helps to create a barrier to keep you protected. It makes it harder for the dark beings to enter your space in the frequency of a green light at night. It's weird, but it works. The movie Ghostbusters really did have something there. And then prayer and meditation. These are important aspects. When we pray and meditate, those are great things. But we need to remember we have to put our actions behind the prayers and the meditations. The other thing about prayer, we have been programmed to believe that when we pray, we close our hands and pray to God or source or whomever it is that you're praying to. When we do this, we're closing off our energy circuit. Again, we're light beings. The earlier pictures of Jesus are of him standing with his palms out and up. Our energies, our hands are conduits to help with these energies. Pray with your hands up and out. Pray with your head up. We've been taught to bow. When we bow, we're shrinking our energy. When we pray and meditate and talk to God, prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening to God. When we use our hands, when we come from a position of strength, it's appreciated by the higher realms. When we're coming in here and we're shrinking, it helps the dark side have access to us. Who taught us to pray that way? That's the $1,000,000 question. So when we're looking at these program beliefs, think about where they came from and do they ring true for you? And before I wrap this up, one more thing. Our intuition is our most profound psychic ability. Our intuition connects us to the higher realms. It connects us to God. It connects us to source. Many of us have had it beaten out of us as small children. Learn to develop your intuition. You can do it with a pendulum also, by the way. You can test things. Learn to use your intuition. And in my book, Soul Tribe, Navigating the Spiritual War, there's also journals that you can get if you want to start taking notes about how your intuition is working. Note that we're not going to be 100% all the time, but we have that ability to improve and improve and improve. These are spiritual practices. Remember, doctors have practices, lawyers have practices, and we too need to have our spiritual practices.
That was incredible, Laura. I was so focused. So I was writing at my journal. So
Thank you. Oh,
there's
thank
some
you.
great points here. And I just want to remind everyone that these resources will be available in the Spiritual Quest Masterclasses. I just want to say thank you so much, Laura, for sharing your knowledge with us today. I mean, it's been a wonderful masterclass. And I just want for everyone watching know that if you want to get a hold of Laura's resources, you can do so by signing up for the Spiritual Quest Masterclasses.
I would recommend it. There's a lot of really good people you have on.
Well, thank you, Laura. I truly appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone who's been here today sharing love and light. And thank you for watching and joining us. And we will be back. And, Laura, you're one of my favorites. You'll be
Well,
back.
thank you.
You know this. So stay tuned for more updates from Laura. And I'm sure that we'll have some great new conversations when the time is right. We'll be listening and tuning in. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody that came today. I appreciate you taking the time out.
Me too. Bye.
Bye.